do to me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's so great to have everyone with us. Hello out to Facebook. I am Darlene Hamilton. I am the founder of the Historical Tea and Dance Society. We started holding events about 11 years ago in Pasadena area, English country, historical dance events, tea dances, balls, dance workshops, and dance classes. We're glad you're with us, and we're glad we can still stay united. If you are joining us on Zoom webinar, here are some tips you need to know that will help you a lot. You want to look down below and open up your chat window, and you can ask questions to Kalia by typing in the chat window or raising the little blue hand button. Either way, Lindsay is going to be monitoring all those questions. And the other thing that's really fun to do is opening up your participants tab. And these will appear on the side of the screen. And you'll be able to see what friends are in the room joining you, and you can say hello to them and that sort of thing through chat. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, never fear, you can also ask questions because Lindsay is also monitoring on Facebook Live in the chat window. So you may also ask questions. We will try to get to as many as we can. Just type in those questions, and then let's see, I think that's about all. At the end of the talk, I will be posting our Join the After Talk Hangout Room email, actually web link, via email to the people who signed up for our webinar, and via our Historical Tea and Dance Friends page. So I think that's all we need to do for housekeeping before we actually get started. I want to introduce, by way of a brief explanation of who our wonderful guest is tonight. Kalia Kliban has been dancing since mid-80s in the Bay Area. She does a wide range of styles. She teaches at dance camps. She's taught Morrison, Longsword, and English and American clogging, and English country dance, and also Contra dance. So I know we have some Contra dancers out there in the audience, so this one is great for you guys as well. And mostly all that is in the Bay Area, but she also goes and travels the country and teaches that way. If you've been to one of her dances, you know she has a welcoming manner and brings something special to the dance floor that you will not forget. So we are really thrilled to have her with us today, and we will let her say hello to everyone. Oops. I am not hearing. Am I muted?
Hang on, Kalia, I'm unmuting you now.
We're all learning the whole technical side of things here. Thank you, Lindsay. And thank both Lindsay and Darlene for all the setup, and we spent some time before this trying to shake out all the kinks, and it's a treat to be here and to be able to say hello to everybody and stay connected even from such a distance. So hi, it's great to see all the names on the side, although I'm going to try not to be staring at the screen and instead be looking you all right in the lens.
It's a lot to get used to, but it is really fun, and we've heard such great things from everybody from doing this, so we're glad everybody is here united. We're going to jump right into the 5 things because there were also a lot of questions that came in too. So thing number 1, You know, if you've been to one of your dances, like I said in the intro, there is a certain something, and you certainly bring a certain attitude to the dance floor, and we would like you to talk more about that.
Yeah, attitude is kind of everything. The five things that I'm going to talk about, almost all of them relate not only to callers, but also to dancers, also to musicians, pretty much everyone who participates in the dance. And I'm going to break attitude down into a few different categories, and hopefully talk a little bit about how each of those categories relates to each of those roles. And I'm going to start with love, because if we didn't love this, we wouldn't be doing it. And for callers in particular, you have to love it, because there is so much unpaid labor that goes into making a program. You have to research dances, you have to transcribe dances, you have to spend a lot of time putting together a program. You have to spend all that time before you're even in the hall making a product that's going to work for the dancers that are there, which also means thinking about who's going to be there. If it's an out-of-town gig, I'm spending a lot of time talking to the organizers ahead of time, trying to find out what is their group like, what does their group like, and what is their group like. And all of that labor ahead of time goes into producing the program. And, you know, you go to a gig, you drive a couple hours, you make easily 35 bucks, and then you drive home. Honestly, if we didn't love it, that just wouldn't happen. And I know that goes for a lot of our amazing musicians as well. Don't know how many of you out there watched Karen Axelrod's little remote concert on Facebook. It was wonderful. These are world-class musicians, and they're playing for coffee money much of the time. So we all bring love to it, and the dancers as well. And conversely, if you're not doing it out of a sense of love, if you're up there and it's a chore and you're cranky and grumpy, oh, the dancers can smell that on a caller. So you really want to be fully there and fully invested and loving what you do, and leave all the baggage behind. It has no place on stage with you. You just want to be there and bring your love and your enthusiasm for it. And the same for the dancers. If you're not loving what you do, if you're having a bad day, or you're just there because your girlfriend told you you had to come, you're going to radiate that. And you'll have this little, you know, like the little cloud following you all around the dance floor. It's just not as much fun. So if you love it with all you got. Which brings me to my second part of attitude, which is joy. And that's something that all of us can look for as we're doing what we do. As a caller, if I have put together a program and I've gauged the room right, and the program is right in the pocket, it's just right for the dancers, and I've gauged it right for the band, if I've put together a program that really focuses on their strengths as well. And, you know, if I'm mentally all there and everything just clicks, there's nothing like it. It's like surfing, you know, you're just riding this wave of happy dancers. It's an amazing feeling. And the same thing goes on the floor. You know, if I've got a strong partner, or like a really happy beginner partner who has no clue, but they're really enjoying it, and the music is right, and everybody's having a good, silly time, you know, even if the dance is falling apart, if everybody's having a great time doing it, it's wonderful. And that's what makes it worth all of the, you know, sitting in piles of index cards, or you know, driving 2 hours to get to a dance, is that joy, that moment of connection and happiness. And it doesn't always happen, but oh, when it does, it makes all of the hard stuff worthwhile. The third bit of attitude that I want to talk about, and this goes for callers and dancers in particular, is flexibility. It goes double for callers though. You can make the best, tightest, most perfect program in the world that you think is going to be right there for the group that you're expecting. And you get there and the world is different than you think it will be. You have to adjust. It is your job to adjust. I have had nights when I have just actually torn up the program and started fresh. You know, you get a great big group of 20 college students who show up right at the start of the dance, having missed the entire beginner session, and none of them have ever danced before, but they saw an article and thought, oh, this will be fun. It's like, okay, we're going to start with something different than I expected. Conversely, I have made very carefully graduated programs that started from, you know, okay, this is how we take hands forward. And everyone in the room was a ringer who's been dancing for 20 years. It was like, okay, we're just going to wing it and do all request. So that kind of flexibility is super important. And for newer callers, it can also be terrifying because you have to adjust. You can't follow your list. It's like, crap, what do I do now? So I know a lot of callers have different ways of approaching that. One way is some people have what they call a back pocket list, where they have dances that they can just call without having to think too hard, that are appropriate for everybody. That's one way to go. I personally, I'm terrible at programming on the fly. So I make programs that have a lot of branching options. So I'll usually start with a couple that are for everybody. I can get a look at the room, see how things are going. And then if it's like, yeah, people still need a little more help, I'll have maybe 2 or 3 options where one dance is very simple and presents a skill in a simple setting. The next one presents maybe that same skill or figure with a little more stuff around it, a little more complexity. And then I might have one that really just lets it rip, you know, fills the same programming niche, but is much more complex. Like an example of those 3 branching options would be, say, if I wanted to do a lush major key waltzy thing in that place in the program, I might have Elizabeth or Trip to Provence or Passages. So Elizabeth involves a lot of independent movement, beautiful dance, but you need to be kind of on the ball because there's a lot going on and you can't just watch your neighbors all the time to see what's happening. You have to be able to work on your own. Things happen at different times. Trip to Provence is a lot more symmetrical. You know, one couple does a thing, another couple does a thing. So it's a little bit safer, a little bit less complex, but it's also really a beautiful, satisfying dance with a great tune. And then Passages is a whole lot easier, also very satisfying to do. But if you've got people who are lost or everybody's brains just stopped working in the middle of the last dance, you can get through that. Like one person can actually take their partner all the way through it with minimal help from the caller. So that's a good example of branching options. You might also try one that's more familiar, one that's less familiar. I had an example on here, like alterations versus Mr. Leg's initiation. Alterations pretty familiar, Mr. Leg's not so much. They scratch a very similar itch programmatically. So flexibility, I build it into my programs. Sharon Green has a different system where she's got sort of a grid. She can choose, you know, column A, column B. But you have to think about that. The dancers have to be flexible. Some people get very pissy when there's a room full of beginners. And The beginners can tell if you're feeling pissy about them being there. Beginners, brand new dancers, are in a particularly vulnerable place. They have decided to come and do a brand new thing that involves a lot of rules and vocabulary that they don't know. Everybody else in the room knows everybody else in the room, and they don't. Everybody else knows the rules, and they don't. It's a scary, scary place. And if somebody's feeling a little bit nervous and a little bit anxious about being the only person in the room who doesn't know everything, any slights or crankiness is going to be really magnified. So it's incumbent on more experienced dancers to provide a good model for being a strong dancer and to be really careful about how they present to those brand new people. So that's a flexibility point for experienced dancers. You need to take good care of those new dancers because they're going to be your friends a few years down the line. And a lot of people remember their early dance experiences very clearly. So help them have good ones. And the last bit about attitude is, and the others will be shorter, I can tell you that, is openness to learning new things. You never, ever stop learning. If you're a caller and you've been going for 20 years and you're still using the same wording, you got to learn new stuff. There are always new ways to present a dance. If you've been calling something for 20 years, there's probably a way to call it better. If you've been dancing it for 20 years and you know all the figures, there's probably a way to dance them more cleanly, better, stronger, in a way that supports your neighbors and partners better. You can probably learn how to dance better with new folks. You never stop learning. And so you always have to be open to there being a better way to do whatever it is that you do. So those are the 4 key chunks of attitude that I think are really important to consider. So that's thing 1.
That was wonderful. Well, moving right along, let's go to thing 2. And 3 guesses what thing 2 is, as she laughs. Something that you always bring to the dance floor as well.
The sense of humor. Oh my gosh, it is so important to have. Being able to laugh at yourself when you screw up, it's huge. And having, getting permission to do that is also a huge thing. Again, this goes back to that feeling of vulnerability and anxiety. When people are learning something that's new, they can get very tight. And if you just give folks permission to go, oh man, that was a gigantic mess. Oops. If you let them laugh, if you present things, you teach a lot of stuff and then you say, and some of you are gonna completely go the wrong way. Don't worry about it. Here's how to fix it. It happens all the time. Don't stress. Just giving people that permission to relax. It's a big deal. It makes an enormous difference in diffusing the anxiety and just lightening the mood in the room. If the caller screws up hugely, I've done it. Oh my God, I've done it so many times. And you can take a couple of different routes from that. You can go, oh crap, everybody saw it. I'm failing horribly. Or you can go, oops. You can toss the card. You can just own it and move on. And being able to relax and laugh about mistakes brings us back to the joy. It's like, man, even screwing up can be fun. Okay, that was terrible. Let's try it again. See, It's fine. There's no lingering poisonous cloud in the room. It's so important. And some people, you know, they worry about being funny. They try and like cram a joke into it. It has to be kind of spontaneous. It has to be pretty unforced. And some people, I hate to say this, are not funny. Life is like that. Being funny may not be one of your strengths. However, if you think, yeah, you know, sometimes I'm kind of funny, but I'm a little nervous about it, there is a thing that you can do that I strongly recommend, which is seek out improv classes in your neck of the woods. I actually did that when I was starting to work on stage, and I was terrified of having to open my mouth on stage. It just scared the poo out of me. And I found our local Bay Area theater sports group, and they ran beginning workshops, and it was a revelation. Also really, really fun. Also terrifying, but in a great way. So if you're thinking, I just want to be able to loosen up verbally, get more relaxed being in front of groups of people, I cannot recommend a little bit of improv training highly enough. It's fabulous and just, it's a total hoot. It's just wonderful. So if you think, yeah, I'm a little bit funny, but I have trouble, you know, responding in the moment, it's great training. If you really aren't funny, that's okay. You don't have to be. But I truly didn't realize that callers were allowed to be funny until I met Susan Michaels. She's a Contra caller, for those of you who are just, who only do English. She's fabulous. She's just a scream on stage and off. She makes it part of her teaching, and her teaching is very relaxed, and it's easy to learn from her because she is funny as hell. So use it if you got it. If you don't, oh, please don't force it. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Thank you. That was great. That was wonderful. We have a couple of questions. I think we're going to inject a little bit here and then get back to the next thing. But we have some hands raised. Lindsay, do you want to take over?
Okay, well, I don't know. We have two hands raised. There's Sharon Green and there's Carol Talley. I hope I said your name right. So if you two are ready, I'm going to go ahead and start with Sharon Green, and then Carol, hopefully we'll be able to bring you on board in a moment. And Vic and I see you have your hand up as well. All right, one moment, Sharon. And you are welcome to turn on your video if you'd like.
Okay, and where do I find that? Okay, here it is. There I am. And there she is. Hi, kid. Well, question for you on sense of humor. Okay. What do you do if a joke falls flatter than a pancake?
Move on as quickly as possible. Walk quickly away from the smell of the terrible joke and let it be in the past. Draw as little attention to it as you can, and it's like just like you do if a dance falls apart. It's like, wow, that totally didn't work. All right, next. So
Okay.
We're going to move on. Yeah, just
Okay.
let it be in the past.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome.
Lovely.
Great.
All right.
Sharon.
Carol. Oh, go ahead. Great. Carol, you're up next. I'm going to bring you on board. Thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome.
A thing is going to happen.
Carol, if you like, you can turn on your video.
Okay, now tell me, start video. Okay, I actually didn't have a question. I'm not sure how, but when I heard my name, I thought, ooh, I had better think of one. But I actually appreciated when a caller acknowledges that there are beginners in the room. And I think it makes that persons comfortable. Do you ever do that? Or what?
Yes, and that's actually a great question. It's a delicate balance because a lot of times the brand new people, they're already feeling nervous enough without everybody in the room turning to look at them all of a sudden. So you want to say, we're happy that you're here. Please don't be shy about asking questions because a lot of people are. I also try very much to encourage the experienced dancers to seek out folks they don't know and invite them onto the floor and help them have a great time. I try not to put too much responsibility on the new folks. Their brains are full. They're like up to here with information. But if they feel welcomed and if they feel like they have a friend up there at the front of the room, that, please don't hesitate to ask me questions. I think that goes a long way toward letting them know that they can ask questions. That kind of permission, I think, is very helpful. And also, if your dance has a stated policy of trying to make beginners welcome, and if you have experienced dancers who are good at that and help the new folks, it makes all the difference in the world.
Right. Thanks.
Okay. And nice to meet you. Hi.
And then we have
I'm glad you're here.
All right, we have one more hand raised in the audience, if that's all good with you, Darlene.
We'll do one
All
more,
right,
and then we'll move on.
perfect. Vic and Di, I'm bringing you on board now. Thanks, Carol.
Can you see us? Let's see. Turn on your video.
Oh, that must be this button right here.
Yeah. Oh, there we are.
Hey, it works.
Hi. Just
Welcome to the learning
here. Hi. The biggest, I've always had the question because, while Vic's calling up there, on the times he's calling, I'm in the room dancing, right? And I have the biggest challenge of working with people who look like they're deer in the headlights, and I don't know how to help them. And it's probably one of the most frustrating things because I want them to look at me and I can help them through. Once they look at me, that's good. I can say a lot with my eyes. But if I can't get their attention, they're looking around. What do you suggest? Because it's a toughie.
It is hard, and I think I see a lot of people helping in very different ways on the floor. And from my own experience, at least while you're in the line, not out at the top or bottom, trying to keep it as nonverbal as possible is great. Dancing just as correctly and clearly as you possibly can is a huge help. You can exaggerate just a little bit. Don't make it huge because then it feels a little condescending, but just be very clear and simple with your movements, no flourishes. Sometimes I'll do a little, a little subtle visual cue. That can be very helpful. And yeah, just try and be really clear. And sometimes you end up with people who are just like narrating the dance or calling from the floor. And again, it comes back to, you got to model really good behavior. If the caller is saying something, make sure that people see that your attention is on the caller I don't know why I'm going all fuzzy all of a sudden, but so yeah, just dance as clearly as you can. And I think that's one of the best things you can do for supporting a new dancer. If their mistake is not harming the pattern of the dance, you know, don't dwell on it. Let it ride down to the bottom of the set. And then you can sort of quietly say, you know, if you turn over, pull this shoulder back when you do the turn, it's a little smoother. Something like that can be a useful correction. But otherwise, I'd say just, you know, let little mistakes like that ride until you're out of the pattern.
Yeah, I think that the thing is, I've learned, it took time to learn how to help non-verbally, but I think I finally got it down following the suggestions of Bruce Hamilton, when you are not the caller. So, I mean, that's a big rule, and I try my best to go by it. And so sometimes I'll go, you know, for when someone needs to do a crossing, and that does help. I think the biggest thing is for me is when I'm working with someone who won't keep eye contact, so they can't see me give the cues. That is the hardest thing.
And the second hardest is when they're paired up together. You have two people, beginners, and they will never leave each other.
Yeah, a little bit of social engineering can be very useful with that.
I think I'm going to interrupt and say this sounds like a good after talk chat question.
Yeah, it does.
And
We'll save it.
move
Right.
on to
Thank
the
you.
rest of the 5 things. Thank you guys for coming on and asking that question.
Excellent.
Well, so thing 3, you obviously
Chat
have
window
such
back up.
a manner that you've attracted a lot of
Oh, I
callers
like this one.
wondering, what do you suggest for resources, and where would you direct them? There's a lot of callers out there asking specifically, what do you have to say?
There's something wrong with the screen.
So I am very new to teaching other callers. It's an entirely different skill set, and I am still learning. I've taught a few college classes at camps. I've probably learned more than the people in the classes have. Thank you all if you've been in one of my college classes. One thing that I have developed, and that I think Lindsay is going to distribute, Lindsay or Darlene, to the folks in the webinar, is an online resources handout. And I've made one for Contra callers. I've also made one for English callers. And both of these are available as PDFs. You can also, I think if you're on Facebook, but you're interested in this, you can contact the Historical Tea and Dance Society and they can email it to you. And in the future, if you want to share this, please get it from me because I update it all the time. So the version that you're getting today, it won't be the same in another 6 months. So check in with me. I'm always happy to share it.
Kalia, really quick, may I interrupt? I'm going to try the good old fashioned turn it off and back on again with your camera. We'll see if that solves the problem.
Yeah, I have no idea why I've gotten all fuzzy.
All right, just a moment.
You bet.
All right, go ahead and try starting your video again.
All right, we'll do that in just a moment. Let's see.
Fingers crossed. Yes! Hey!
I'm in focus. I love being in focus. It makes me happy. All right. So online resources handout, that has a ton of stuff in it. I'm not going to go over the stuff because that's what the handout is for. Joanna touched on something last week that I think is important, which is dance as much as you can. There's a huge difference between a dance that looks, you know, functional on paper, but it might have a ton of things that just don't quite work, or it doesn't flow. It just doesn't quite pop. And something conversely that looks great or looks really boring on paper could be an absolutely wonderful dance. So there's no substitute for just putting in the floor time. That being said, if you're going to call more than a couple times a year, you need to start building up a library. Physical books are excellent. You can get them from CDSS. You can also get them from an organization. I'm going to look up and make sure I get this right. The Anglo-American Dance Shop. They're an online store. They're in Belgium. The address is dance.aads.be/. You can also just look up AADS Dance online. It'll take you there. If CDSS doesn't have it, they probably will. So physical books are incredibly helpful, and you'll need to start learning how to evaluate a dance on paper. That's a skill that just takes practice. Oftentimes, you just don't know until you do it. And I've gotten a bunch that I thought, oh, this looks wonderful. And we dance it, and I say, okay, folks, what did you think of that? And it's like, or it can be great. So it's a skill that evolves. Building a library takes some resources. So if you're just getting started, a really important resource is the other callers in your neighborhood. We're generally pretty nice. We love, most of us, helping brand new callers. So please don't be shy. You know, if you need a little infusion of new material, talk to your local callers. You know, ask them if you can show up and, you know, rummage the library. Sharon Green, thank you. Let me do that when I was getting started, and it was an amazing help. She just turned me loose with a photocopier and you know, this 12-foot shelf of dance books. It was fabulous. It gave me a repertoire boost for the next couple of years as I was starting to build up a library. A lot of people say, I don't know what to get. You know, Graham Christian suggested a few things, so did Joanna. And I would say, if there are dances that really make you happy, if there's one choreographer that you really like, or if there's a period that you like, or Mary Lockhart, 1 year that you really like, seek out material from those people or those periods. And that can help you focus your acquisition of books. So that's a way to get started without totally breaking the bank. And CDSS has recently revamped their website hugely, and they've added a ton of resources. That information is on those online resource handouts. Go look around. Even if you've checked it, you know, last year, there's new stuff all the time, and that's for contras, for squares, for English dances, and family dances as well, I think. And more all the time. So CDSS is a hugely important online resource. And about working with other callers, they are not just a repertoire resource. If there are other callers who are at the same stage of their development as you, get together with them and talk shop. If there's an experienced caller who you're friends with, get together and talk shop. You know, take them out for lunch, pick their brains, treat their time as a valuable resource, because it is. But these are your peers, these are your working peers. So, you know, they can give you information about what's happening in the community. They can help you solve problems, or figure out, yeah, what do you do when this thing happens? It's incredibly helpful to talk to other people who do the same thing you do, and don't overlook it. Also, talk to your musicians. Just hang out and, you know, talk to them. I'm really lucky because I'm married to a really good dance musician, and he has trained me well. in John's opinion, the caller's only job really is to tell the musicians when to stop playing. It is a very important job, but there are other things that we do. So I appreciate that. It was a good lesson to learn, John. But you can learn a lot from your musicians. Talk to your sound people. They can help you work with microphones. All of these people that you work with are potential resources, and they are your professional peers. So it helps to develop good relationships with all of them. Doesn't have to be a mentoring thing, but just a good working relationship is a wonderful thing to have. I have a few more smaller things within the tips for callers section. Demonstrations are really powerful teaching tools. Don't overlook them. You can spend 10 minutes trying to describe something when a 10-second demonstration would have made it clear. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Use them. They're important. Caller intensives at week-long camps can be enormously helpful. CDSS offers matching scholarships. So if your local community thinks you're a good investment, if they offer half of your camp fee, CDSS will match that. There's some paperwork you have to do, but it's a really nice thing for your community to do, and B, it will boost your skills like you would not believe. It's worthwhile, it's hard work, but it's really excellent. And the people in your class will also be a peer group that you can work with. Never pass up an opportunity for an open mic at camp, or again, here comes talking to the other callers in your area, guest slots. A lot of us are perfectly happy to say, yeah, you want to call one before the break, or call a couple in the first half. It's a great way to get started. It's how I got started. Lydie Scudder, who ran our Sebastopol dance, was the one who finally pushed me into the pool, and I am forever grateful to her for that. And our local community put up with all of my lumps and bumps as I was learning, and they still put up with all my lumps and bumps. And it would not have been the same without that kind of help. So seek that stuff out. Don't be shy about asking. Never hurts to ask.
Great advice. Oh, sorry.
One last thing about tips for callers, which is think about what your own strengths are. Everybody's got different ones. I am quick on my feet verbally. I'm really good at thinking about clear ways to describe figures, and I'm generally not very scary as a teacher. And those are 3 things that are very useful. Other people might be, they might be just beautiful examples of style. You might be really good at explaining how things fit with music. Everybody has different strengths. They don't have to be the same. So think about what yours are. Might take some introspection and build on those. Conversely, everybody has different weaknesses. And if you're feeling strong, talk to a trusted friend. Ask them, what could I improve on? And listen to that advice. It could be very helpful. You can work on almost everything. And so yeah, think about what your strengths are, lead with that, and all the rest will follow with practice.
That was wonderful. Thank you. We have another call-oriented thing, which is reading the room, which apparently you excel at. So, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier. So thing number 4, reading the room.
Yeah, and this is another thing that Joanna talked about last week, and I really agreed with what she had to say. In particular, the utility of the Friday night set. For those of you who didn't get to see Joanna's thing, if you're at a week-long or a weekend event, the Friday night set is when you get to just see how people respond to your teaching, how people respond to different levels of complexity. and just in general, how the room functions. And my term for that set is the minesweeper. I lob little bits of choreography out into the room, and I wait until something explodes. And I find that very instructive. I can see what sorts of things people have trouble with or what is very easy. And that goes for working with the band as well. I figure out what's happening. In the course of a single session, like I'm just calling my regular Sunday dance, the minesweeper is usually the first 2 dances. That's when I look around the room, I see, oh, these folks have never done that figure before. So a little further down the program, when I have a branching option, I might want to choose the thing that just works on that figure rather than that figure plus a million other things. So those first couple of dances are really, really informative. And so you watch for whether, like if I say, and we finish with 4 changes of rights and lefts, and if I see everybody's eyes kind of doing this, I know, all right, let's break this figure down. We can work on this a piece at a time, and just make sure that everybody's comfortable with that thing, because that thing is going to come up a bunch more. If you've structured your program with a build of, putting the blocks together, working up toward a more complex dance that uses all those parts. So you watch the faces. If you see a lot of people with the foreheads, the anxiety forehead, or rolling the eyes, that's the one that you get from the experience. And just like, oh God, do we have to do this slowly? Watch the facial expressions. You can listen for the, what's it called? The rhubarb rumblings of mutiny. When you hear the room going rhubarb, 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 something is amiss. So there's a lot of little visual and auditory cues for when a room is humming along well, or when things are a little funky. And again, you have to be flexible. And if you see that something's not working, you adjust. Either you continue calling. If you've started to drop out and things are getting sketchy, come back in. Provide that support that people need. Also, if it's a room full of ringers and you're doing, midnight ramble, call it twice and shut up. Get out of the way. Let people enjoy the music. So it can go both ways, either providing more support or just get out of the way. And if one of those, if you try it and it really doesn't work, adjust, flex. It's all about flexibility.
Well, I think that brings us to our 5th thing. And I know there are questions out there. We are going to try to get to some at the end of this, but we have 2 more important questions on the list. The 5th thing, and then the final question, which has become the question, which you'll understand, the audience will understand when you hear it. So the 5th thing, why do you love English country dancing so much?
Oh yeah, why do we keep coming back to this year after year and putting in all this time and all these index cards? It's about an opportunity for elegance and for grace that is completely absent in everyday life. There are things that you can do on the dance floor that are so satisfying. This sense of courtesy, almost as an art form, of being kind to each other, and there's just an elegance to existence on the dance floor that is otherwise sadly lacking in most lives. And being able to not only be elegant and graceful, but also do it to some of the best music on the planet brings us right back to love. That's what more do we need?
Well said. And especially, we so love the albums that are available that John's worked on. So, you know,
Yeah.
visions of audio recordings are running through my head. All right, so here's the last thing. It's not really a thing, but there's the thing for me. And everyone wants to know, what is your favorite dance?
Oh, yeah.
Big question.
Context is a big part of that. And, you know, if I'm in the mood for something just kind of rompy and fun, goofy Kalia dances can be great. I have a particular fondness for the Cornish six-hand reel. Dances like Midnight Ramble, just clap and go, are great. If I'm feeling like I just want to be elegant and precise, there are things like Mrs. Savage's Whim, which enables you to interact with everyone in your minor set in a really meaningful way. And I adore that dance. Beautiful tune also. But for just sheer numbers of peak dance moments over the years, there are 3 that stick out for me. Kelstern Gardens is this perfect little jewel of a dance. I love it. I love everything about it. Hamilton's Roundo has probably provided more goosebumps per dance than any other over the years. It's not always perfect, but those moments, you know, those moments, I've probably had more of them during Hamilton's than any other dance. And Chocolate Equation is right up there as well. I think it's beautifully constructed, and the tune is glorious. Love that dance.
I was busy typing them in the background. I'm not doing a very good job of it. So somebody else, please type in Chocolate Equation and filling on Hamilton's. Okay, great. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay so she can bring up a few questions. And then after the questions, there's one more thing that I want to ask you about after a few questions. So we want to leave room for just a few minutes of that. And then a little housekeeping and sending out the link to the after talk. So Lindsay.
Question. Okay, I was on the spot. All right. We did have some excellent questions that came in from the survey for those folks who signed up via the survey for the webinar. Where is that list? There it is. Okay. We have a question. Oh boy, which one to choose? There's so many good ones.
The percussion one. How about that one?
The percussion one? Yes. Okay, so this is from Lucia Coulter. She said, love the clogging you did as percussion on CD. Could you demo this or talk about it? Or
Yeah, I've had a lot of different hats, different dancing hats over the years, and one of my early performance experiences was with an old-time clogging group called the Corn Mashers, based in San Francisco. And we did what some folks call revival style clogging, which is fabulous. And my real inspiration for that was a woman named Amy Sarley. She was a member of the Fiddle Puppets, originally, well, way back when, the Greengrass Cloggers. And I didn't get to see a lot of her stuff, but what I did see, she really epitomized old-time flatfoot for me. And if you're curious about her, there's an amazing documentary about flat-footing and clogging in general called Talking Feet. I think you can get it streaming. I cannot recommend it highly enough. And so the clogging and the Morris and longsword, all of that stuff became a part of my physicality as I started learning how to dance. And everybody brings that with them, whether your training was ballet or Scottish, or if you're a tennis player or a long distance runner, all of that stuff informs how you move on the dance floor. And it's kind of fun to see the mix that everybody brings with them when they dance. And I'm not really set up for doing it right now, but I do encourage you to watch Talking Feet, and clogging is a total hoot. So if you get a chance, give it a whirl. I still do teach it occasionally at dance camps. So perhaps we will convene sometime and we can stomp around, make some noise. I'd like that.
Love it. All right, I have another question from the email survey. It's from Pat Hanley. The question is, what are some friendly ways to encourage dancers to listen to the caller while the dance is being taught or walked through? This is a question we've been discussing in our local community as well, so I'm really curious.
Yeah, and it's the twin to the question on the Contra side of the aisle, which is, what does it take to get people to just take the freaking hands forward every time? It's like it's a surprise every single time. So yeah, there are a few different ways to approach this. One is through your whole community. You sort of imbue your community with the idea that paying attention to the caller is a good thing. You sort of, I mean, when you're an experienced dancer, you kind of understand that that's the unstated agreement. Newer folks don't necessarily know that. So the person who teaches the beginner session can say, listen to the caller. It's important. What they're telling you is important. Experienced dancers can model superb attention to the caller. They will find it difficult, I know, but it's good for them. The other thing, and it's a really important thing, is be worth listening to. If you get the attention of the room and then you go, oh, hang on, it's in the book. Oh wait, no, my card. You've lost it. You've squandered the attention. So let people chat while you're fumbling around with your notes. And then when you're done fumbling, say, all right, let's get started. Number one's set and cast, and make it worth their while to pay attention. If you develop a reputation for someone who, when they're talking, there's not a lot of content, people are going to tune you out. So don't develop that reputation. It really does help to have substantive content available when you're talking. So
Lovely, thank you.
I think we have time for one more, maybe?
Okay, cool.
And maybe
Yes,
we'll
well,
be a couple minutes late, but I think that'll be okay. Everybody will forgive us.
please forgive us. Okay, we have a question from Kara King and Todd Brune. The question is, in the time you've been doing English country dancing, how has the community changed and how has the dancing changed?
Yeah. In part, that's a very hard question to answer because my role in the community and my abilities have changed a lot over the last 30 years. So, you know, I started as a dancer. I've moved on through being a teacher into being a caller, and my own dance abilities have changed hugely, which changes my perception of what's happening on the floor. So a lot of what I see as change may simply be change of viewpoint. That said, I'm seeing an enormously increased flexibility in who gets to dance with who, which is excellent. When's the last time you saw a gender balanced dance camp? They may still be out there, but you don't hear about them all that much. Yeah. So, you know, dance with who is coming at you. I think that is a huge and positive and wonderful change. The terminology has changed quite a bit as well. Instead of directing one dancer to do things to their partner or their neighbor, it's like, you people dance with each other. The language has become a lot more inclusive. We've got a ways to go. There will be so much debate about how that happens, I know, and it's an ongoing thing. But inclusivity and flexibility have changed substantially, and I think that is a very, very positive change.
That's great. I love it. I love it. Yay. Thank you. Well, I think from this hour, you can obviously tell that Kalia is quite the craftsman on the dance floor and as a caller and as a teacher. And she's also quite the craftsman up in Sebastopol Yes, that's where the gallery is, I believe. And
Yep.
I asked her if she would please show us some of her beautiful woodworking.
So what I do is I'm a wood turner. I was a cabinet and furniture maker for a long time. Now I turn bowls, which means I use a big tool like a lathe. It's like a potter's wheel turned on its side, spins a chunk of wood, you stick your tool into it, makes a big mess. It's great. So I make primarily functional tableware. This is a stack of little eating bowls. They're painted with milk paint. These are all washable. You can throw them in the sink. Various woods. I call these Goldilocks bowls. I think they're cute. I like them. I do a lot of larger pieces as well, and I mostly work with the woods that are native to my area. This is California Bay Laurel, which is lovely to work with, and it makes the shop smell fabulous. Kind of a nice, spicy, fabulous scent, and big salad bowl. All different sorts of woods. This one is in elm. It's a wonderful wood for functional pieces. Sturdy. This will be here hundreds of years after I'm gone. It's a nice bowl for the ages. And I just recently started bringing both sides of my life together with the musical plates. And I'm going to bring this close to the camera. This one is a little cherry plate with the tune around the edges. So the plate is turned out of a thin piece of cherry, and then the tune is done with pyrography, which is a wood burning tool. It's kind of a nervous-making job because if I make one mistake, there's no eraser for this. I have to just take the whole thing off and start over. So I've done a couple of these now. I have an order for another one. You might be watching. It's in the pipeline. They're fun, though kind of a nail biter to get them done. But it's nice to bring both sides of life together.
That was wonderful. Thank you. They're so beautiful. I feel like I can smell them. Yeah, they're so beautiful. I love living art. So thank you so much for coming on. At the end, we will put up a screen for anybody that feels like they wish to make donations of where, oh, did we lose? Oh, we lost Lindsay for a minute. I think we're still live, hopefully. Anyways, we will put up a screen that shows where you can make a donation if you wish to. But these are free, and we're happy to do this service to the community and keep our community connected. I want to give a shout out to Karen Axelrod for her fabulous concerts before our talk every Tuesday. We're so thrilled to have them. It's just so moving, and all of you who go on and make music or dancing, Sharon Green, and all this other stuff we're doing for the community. At the end of this, I am sending out the link to our Historical Tea and Dance Society friends, and then to the webinar mailing list so you can join the after talk. There is only 100 spaces. Please come in and keep yourself muted until requested, because we will be even more live than this. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us. It's been such a great hour, and I'm looking forward to the after talk because there were other questions and certainly things I wanted to ask. So, Lindsay, thank you. She's working in the background, seeing if she can get back on. But thank you all for joining us, and we'll.
Well, so much. This has been such a treat, and Darlene, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure. I'm also looking forward to the chat afterwards, and yeah, it's been great to see names drifting by on the side there, and I look forward to being part of a larger discussion.
Yeah. Thank you, and bye. See you next Tuesday when we have Rebecca King. And
Wonderful. Oh.
And I can now also announce that the Tuesday after that Rebecca King is April 14th, and on April 21st, we have Kate Barnes. So we're very excited to have her as well. So yeah, so keep coming back every Tuesday night and join us for the after party. Bye. I am going to post I'm going to turn off everything else and post that link. Let's see. This was not something I was planning on doing, but thank you, thank you, thank you. Mindless babble until I figure out.
Yep. All right, we're going to stop the video and mute on our end,
Yeah.
and we will sign back in for the chat.
Thank you. All right. Here we go. I think you have it now. We're going to leave that up for just a moment or two, and I am going to send out the link for the after talk. And we will be starting that very soon. Bye.